Hi, everyone. While you take a moment to get settled in, we're going to go ahead and get started with a message from our sponsors, and then we'll get started in earnest. All right, I'm Allison Hurst. I'm stepping in for Terry this evening, and I want to welcome you all to Tuesday Evenings at the Modern. Tonight is a special presentation in conjunction with the exhibition Focus Leidy Churchman, which opened last Friday and is on view at the Modern until March 21st. Tonight, we are so lucky to have Leidy here with us in conversation with Johanna Fateman about Leidy's career and Leidy's beautiful, enigmatic paintings. If you have any questions for Leidy and Johanna, please type them in the Zoom Q&A tab at the bottom of the window, and we'll get to them at the end. Johanna Fateman is a writer, musician, and a co-owner of Seagull Salon in New York City. She is a member of the post-punk rock band La Tigre. She writes art criticism regularly for 4 columns in The New Yorker, and she is a contributing editor of Art Forum. She is a 2019 Creative Capital awardee and is currently at work on a novel. Leidy Churchman is a painter that lives and works in both New York and Maine. Leidy's work has been shown at museums such as MoMA PS1 in New York, and Museum Brandhorst in Munich, and the Museum of Contemporary Art in Los Angeles. One-person exhibitions include the Koldnischer Kunstverein in Cologne, the Boston University Art Gallery, the Hessel Museum at CCS Bard in Annandale on Hudson, New York, and now also the Modern Art Museum of Fort Worth. We are very honored to have Johanna and Leidy here as our guests tonight to share their insights in tonight's presentation. I welcome you both and turn it over to you.
Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you to everyone at the Modern for organizing this, and thank you, Leidy, for being here. I'm so happy to have this conversation with in the intro it said beautiful and enigmatic, and I think that was a nice way to introduce your work. It's funny, Leidy and I had this great conversation like 3 days ago or something, and kind of mapped out what we were going to talk about, and then Leidy just texted me, let's just not try to recreate that, let's just go for it. So we're gonna wing it. But I wanted to start with just looking at your work, Leidy, looking at your show that's up now at the Modern, and it must be strange not to have been there to install, right?
Yeah, it looks really familiar.
Yeah, I mean, I think the installation shots are important to kind of orient people who may not be familiar with your work, because when you look at them, you see that you're working at a variety of scales and that the subject matter is kind of all over the place. You know, it's not, you don't have a particular thing that you're painting at all. And one of the things you said to me that was kind of a relief in our conversation was you said there's nothing to figure out about these paintings. So I think what would be great to know is just then how you make them. How do you decide what to paint? And I think we'll go to the next slide now, if we can. Oh, that's a good shot. You can see the variety there. Can we go to reclining Buddha?
Well, maybe we could, well, can we stay on the wall for a minute?
Okay.
Just to, because, well, Johanna, thank you so much for coming in here to talk to me. I think that, yeah, I loved our conversation the other day, and I had so many thoughts about it afterwards. I mean, I think that, you know, what you were just saying, that I had said that there's nothing to figure out. I think there's a lot of things to think about. But I think that statement of there's nothing to figure out is kind of in the same way of, you know, having your own private kind of moment of looking at something or having a moment. There's a lot of things coming through your head and a lot of experiences and memories and ideas. And it's just, there's not one thing in it, right? And I feel that's how I think about painting. Like any one of these paintings, there's not really like a little story that's very specific about each one. I mean, maybe one of them started with a story, but then I'll work kind of backwards in the painting. And so yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when I was writing about your work and this body of work, a lot of it or all of it was in your show at Matthew Marks in New York. Is that true?
Two of the paintings are new.
Oh, plus 2 new paintings. When I was writing about it, you know, it was hard to write about. I mean, it's always hard to write, but I think that is a difficult thing to not feel like there's a code or a puzzle that you're unlocking, which is sort of the nature of, you know, some conceptual art or art that's so involved with painting history that you feel like you need to be an insider. So this work is more about being present with your own thoughts and your own mind. And you actually said that if it's about anything, it's about the mind, which I thought was fascinating.
And ungraspable, right? In a certain sense.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm really interested. I really like just intimacy in that way. Like, you know, when you live with something, you know, it moves on from being the thing that it was when you came upon it, you know, and it becomes a part of your household, and it is in the room during certain conversations, and, you know, you just don't see it as what it is so much. It kind of gathers all these feelings, personal feelings to them. And, but something different in terms of when you're making something, you know, I was thinking about, you know, with emotions, if you kind of push them away, they get bigger. But if you know, this kind of idea of like, when you bring things in, you know, they do kind of dissolve more. And I was talking on a podcast the other day, and we were talking about Marston Hartley and pain, and how he, you know, I feel like there's so much pain in his work. It's very, very bright and joyous. I feel the same way, like you kind of, but if you bring it into the work, it kind of dissolves into something it's still pain, but it's like very joyous, and it's very big. And it's kind of, so like, you know, in painting, like the things that we're feeling and what we bring into it can kind of transform within the paintings to something that's bigger than the initial feeling that you had personally into that bigger kind of thing that we all kind of can feel. And so I feel like a painting, you can see where it began, or you have that recognition of something there, but there's something that's transformed in it during the painting. That so then when you see it, you're seeing kind of like the thing, it's maybe the initial feeling, but you seeing this sort of transformation into something, that isn't really graspable in that way. It's like, you know what I mean? How paintings, they're so piercing, but I think it has to do with all the time that somebody kind of puts attention on it. We were talking about that a little bit, like that mysterious thing that happens when someone puts their attention on something for a long period of time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, I think one of the reasons I love looking at art is there's something transfixing about that energy, even if it is, as it is, a construct of my own mind and what I'm projecting onto the object. But even knowing that or thinking that doesn't really dampen its effects on me, at least. So, and painting is a really powerful medium, and can be very magnetic. I think for that reason, and you can't really describe it or, analyze it that well. But I think maybe we can talk about reclining Buddha now. So, Leidy, can you talk about the installation, how this one is different?
Yeah, this painting is installed in a niche in the wall that's sort of derived from a Buddhist monastery that I went to, and all the kind of sculptures that were in the space were put into the wall with lights, and I thought that was really a nice way to view this piece. I don't think I ever planned on painting a Buddha, but it just kind of happened through. I got a little sculpture of it, and I started thinking about the reclining Buddha. And this is a really popular image that you can find on the internet. And so, I painted it really, very kind of lightly, and kind of tried to keep a lot of space in it. And then with a big white border, and it just seemed nice to give it a special place, and kind of maybe just something a little bit different than, painting on canvas on wall. It seemed to me to allow that extra effort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I wrote about this painting, I think that I Googled something like reclining Buddha to sort of track down the source, and it was the first image that came up. I think it was, or the Wikipedia page for this specific sculpture, and a few photographs framed in a pretty similar way, if not exactly the same way. And I'm wondering, what was your thought process in combining this sort of devotional framing, or traditional, the niche, referring to some place that an image of the Buddha might be displayed outside of an art world context, and this sort of technique of reproduction that would not be in a Buddhist space? I mean, anything can be in a Buddhist space, but.
doesn't it kind of, I feel like it looks like an envelope in a kind of mailbox or something. But I mean, when I made it, it was actually like having it in my studio really had an impact on me, and so I didn't plan the niche, it all kind of came about. I mean, the painting came first, and I considered painting flowers around it. I wanted to give it, whether in the painting or not, like some, a kind of special framing of like, or putting something down with it. And so the niche became that thing, and it seemed nice to keep the painting pretty, like very open, kind of, just sailed right in there. So, but I think that in space, seeing it in real life, you really feel that body, that, that figure. And I, it really had an impact on me. Like I didn't know, I didn't know what would happen when painting it. And I found myself thinking a lot about enlightenment, and that the Buddha was a real person, and they became enlightened. And, this isn't to say let's all be enlightened and we're going to do that. But I think that I always think with this painting and this piece, like, let's learn about it. And it's important to believe in enlightenment. It kind of raised that bar of thinking about the mind and what the capacity is for that. Well, because I feel like otherwise we leave out that history of so many people who have been superior practitioners of meditation, and what has actually happened by doing that. And, to not know, it's something hard to kind of talk about, but to not like, that we could, that the mind is very elastic, and more so than the body. And that, I have to say, just, seeing the Buddha for that, 6-month period was kind of really wild to me. So.
Yeah. So for people who haven't seen this painting in person, it's about the size of a person, right? Or we figured it out a little bit smaller than probably smaller than a figure. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe part of its like expansive, open feeling could have to do with this sort of, you're going from a small image, I assume, right? Like wherever you copied it from.
Well, there's actually videos too. So I went into videos and tried to, see around it. I was trying to get to it, but yeah. This is
3D virtual tour. Yeah. But what I think is so interesting is you made it the size of a person. So you went from small to big, but this is a statue that's gigantic. Mm-hmm. So I feel like there's this, expanding sense of expansion in it, that's literal, I guess, that you really did make it bigger, and yet there's something bigger than that. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm curious too, when you talk about, this reminding you of a real person who became enlightened, I'm fascinated by this sort of like the realness of the crumbling, bricks around the statue, and how it's not were looking at a tourist site. Was that, I mean,
Oh, to include that? Why?
yeah,
Or
why
how?
did you, what was your attraction to this, what am I trying to say? Yeah, this kind of humbled view of a monumental sculpture.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, well, I think that those things really bring in the scale, in a way. But
Oh, I guess I didn't think of it that way. You're right. That's how you know it's huge.
mm-hmm.
The bench. Mm-hmm. Well, let's look at another painting. Let's move on. Oh, details. I love details.
I'm in this room right now.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's so interesting. So this is, I thought this was a completely fantasy space, like it's almost like Goodnight Moon or something.
Yeah. It is a fantasy space, because on purpose, like I mirrored it. I flipped it. It's inside out of what it is. Yeah, I wanted to paint this room, but when I looked at it with just a regular photo, it just looked like an ordinary bedroom. And then I mirrored it, and it just seemed like kind of strange and familiar at the same time. So it's not how the room is at all, actually.
And presumably there's not like a creature.
Giant scorpion.
Oh, wow. That's great to see it up close. Is it eating people?
Yeah, it's eating a man and a woman. The scorpion is something that's on a lot of Tibetan Buddhist texts. It sort of protects the teachings from being co-opted, and there's a lot. I mean, a lot of Buddhist imagery. Whenever it's going to cut off someone's head or anything violent, it's always towards the ego, and just like to keep that, like kill that, and just stay on the path. So. But I mean, I thought it was amazing because it's eating binary gender or something like that. I'm like, okay, I love when something can work on a lot of different levels.
Right. It can mean.
It kind of looks like a lobster. It's a main painting.
To be honest, I think I thought it was a lobster.
Yeah. But I just love it because it's like, if you see on the arms, like it's like little smiley faces, like everything's very, happy, like kill your demons, you'll be fine. It's good, stay,
So this is really not a copy or a reproduction of something. It's a composite of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And did you work from that photograph you were talking about of the room?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't from memory.
Well, I like, if the paintings, I used the photograph and, took it from there, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, it's kind of, the way it's painted is very light and kind of bouncing around, and, let me think. I started it. This painting came about over a period of time. So,
Mm-hmm.
sort of little bits there, here and there. And
You said that you had the Buddha in your studio for 6 months. Is that typical to work on something for that long or have it around that long?
yeah, sometimes I work on paintings for much longer. You know, sometimes, and that's what, because there are different ways of working. I mean, some paintings just are fun because they're just impossible, and then some sit around.
And do you have a few going at the same time?
Yeah, and I'll a lot of times I was just in New York and I started a bunch of paintings, left them there, came to Maine, and I think paintings really just, they need to be left alone a lot.
Yeah.
And like, even with and we'll come to it, but there's a little iPhone painting, and I mean, that one got done. That one was, it's so small, and I kind of got it going really fast, but then like months later, I kind of, finished it. I just kind of, I definitely think paintings need to be ignored a lot. I always like bring up like Edward Munch, because I always say his name wrong, but he did this thing, he called it the horse cure, where he would take his paintings and put them outside in the snow and the sun and the wind, and like he thought they were like bad, so they needed to be punished. Kind of like a horse, like if the horse isn't trained, you let it like run in a lot of space until it calms down, and then you can like sort of train it if it comes back or something. I've tried that before, putting them outside and trying that, but they can just go like in another room or something, but it's good to like let them just like rest a lot, I think, because then you see them again and you're just like, oh, kind of, yeah,
fresh eyes. Yeah.
You're living, you have a whole different view on the world at that point, and so the painting that was just absolutely impossible is like just what you need, if you give it time.
Should we? Yeah. This is another one that is from a small thing, right?
Yes.
That you enlarged a lot.
Yeah.
How did
I don't know what the original was. I mean, it could have been a bigger thing to begin with, but it is, how I came across it was, it's a card in a kind of a tarot deck. I mean, this deck is so incredible. Everything in it is kind of Buddhist teachings within pictures, and they're collages, and they're really beautiful.
Yeah, it's interesting. You I love this one. We should talk about this one, but I first want to bring up this idea that, or not idea, but something you told me, which was that you sometimes really want to paint things because you just love them. Like you think they're really great.
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Go on.
Well, I mean, I no, you should just respond to that.
Well, I actually, I was reading this book about Marcel Duchamp a few years back, and he was talking more about his ready-mades, and it's something you're like, oh yeah, the ready-mades, like, and he's, how many ready-mades can you make? And he talks about, he's like, I was really careful. I mean, I think the way he chose his ready-mades was sort of, it's like a feeling. He's like, this is ready to be something that it's not, it's ready. But he was saying, he's like, I can't do tons of them. You can't just go wild. And, I don't think I'm making ready-mades at all, but I really heard what he was saying. I was like, I feel that way. That's how I approach painting. Like, yes, like I do things for pleasure, and I do it. A lot of paintings start just because I love something, but I do feel this every time I'm going to make a painting. I think, why would I make a painting? I've made a lot of paintings, like they're, and it's kind of indescribable, but it's, I do have a resistance. I don't just like paint like everything I see. I do want to make tons of paintings, and I love and will continue to, but I don't just paint everything. And so I'm really careful about it. It's because I think it is sort of this privilege of finding that right moment and that right way, or, right now I have to make a painting for this someone, and I'm nervous about it. I'm really I'm not nervous, but I'm trying to figure out what should be painted for that. I don't just make a painting to make a painting. It's weird. I think you have to be really careful, or I feel like I have to be really careful. I thought, I'll just make this amazing New Yorker cover because I just love this one of this dog, Trump throwing meat to a white dog, or whatever. Then I'm thinking, I painted a New Yorker cover. Like, it matters. Like, I think about the whole container filled with paintings that I've made, and I don't want there to be an excess one that was just because, like, so I really don't make a lot of excess paintings. Like, they come about, and then they come about in groups, and
right. It seems like you don't make a series of paintings. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, but I probably will when it, do you know what I mean? I mean,
I pull it out.
I think that would be a really fun thing to do. So I probably will try that maybe at some point, but, and that would just, so the idea of making everything really different is also not my agenda exactly. Do you know what I mean? Like, just seems to be something fun. And I like to think about people's different perspectives and kind of start paintings from different perspectives. Maybe just to bring different people in, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because one thing you could think about your paintings and all these different subjects and ways of paintings and modes, you could say it's random. But what you're saying actually is that it's completely the opposite of random. It's so specific.
Yeah.
But I guess, yeah. Well, tell us about this one. This is fascinating because it's a screen, right?
Yes. It's a screen that became a net or something. Like, there was text on the screen, but then it seemed like, like other text could come in because it was already a text painting. So it kind of magnetized other text to come into it. And then it says police at the top. I think that's because I've made a police painting. It pulled in some other, it just kind of pulled in things. It actually has a painting of mine. That black square says giraffe on it. That was a painting that was on the wall, like reflected.
Oh, so interesting. Yeah, I mean, this is, when I saw this painting, I was so fascinated by, I guess it to me looked like a picture of information, or like that part of your work of just noticing really emerged for me because, um, you know, on the one hand, it evokes like Google searches and like whatever relationship you have with finding images online or messaging or whatever, but it's suddenly this object of contemplation. I don't know if that's the right word, but I'm curious, like, how do you feel about it? Does it feel, when you bring all these sources together, is it a meditative thing? Is it?
Well, let me tell you something. It says there is an estimated 100 billion worth of copper located directly under the Buddha site. And so that's why the site got decimated.
Right.
Because there was something of value under it. And, but copper is something that's put under every Buddhist statue. There's a piece of copper under it. And maybe that's why there was copper in the ground, but there's copper under the statues because copper conducts energy, like electricity and energy. And so there's sort of a joke there that like the Buddhist site, so much energy was sort of brought in through all the practice that was happening that, or that they sense that there was copper there, or it's just very, very odd that it wasn't like next to the site or down the road or something. It was just like they were sitting right on all that.
Yeah.
And so then I took from this sadhana of Mahamudra, this kind of sadhana practice. There's these lines from that, and it says, "The glorious copper-colored mountain is within my heart." So it just kind of all kind of tied in together and was sort of very beautiful and extremely sad. And then, I'm sort of there, I'm sort of not. I don't know. This was a really fun painting, the way it all came together, because it was very surprising.
Mm-hmm.
It really just sort of all emerged together, and then deciding to put a mirror frame. Really kind of made it spin out of control or something.
Why do you think you chose to do that?
I don't know. It just popped in my head or something. I don't know how exactly I thought of it, but I think that paintings, now I want to put every painting in a mirror frame. It's really kind of, I feel like it's a great way in. But especially with this one, I think especially because of all the info, the information,
Mm-hmm.
It really did feel like it was magnetizing like all these things. And so the mirror, I think, really plays that out.
Right.
Way.
Yeah, it's a beautiful painting.
And also the mirror is cool, especially in this one, because it actually kind of turns it into a moving image.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to see in the picture because you're just seeing gray gray, but when it's in space, it kind of turns back into a video or something, because there's just like imagery and light and things moving all around it. That is really fun to watch.
Yeah. Let's see where we are with time. Okay, so let's go. We have like 5 minutes to talk, and then you're gonna answer more questions. So let's move to another slide, maybe. Oh, the phone. Do you want to talk about the phone? I feel like people love the phone.
I think so too. I'm hearing that. It sounds like Trump. I'm hearing.
Many people are saying. There's something super attractive about the phone. I play this game with myself where I'm like, if I could have one painting, I know it's a very like weird consumerist way to approach.
Oh, I'm like that with art. I'm always like, I want to buy that.
I'm like, which one would I buy? Which one do I want?
Yes.
I think I would want the reclining Buddha, but I think a lot of people would want this. And I'm wondering if you had a sense of that, like, power that it would have as this like gleaming, sexy, technological thing, or
I think once I kind of painted it in, I was like, oh gosh, I was like, this is beautiful. It was kind of, it was one of the first paintings that wasn't the first. There was older ones that were like I was saying, there were some bad ones kicking around that wanted to be a part of this show. That was the show for Matthew Marks. And I was like, but then I had that one in and I had all these like really bright yellow kind of abstract weird paintings going, and then the Buddha Dharma Fever, that bedroom was kind of coming up, so it was a lot of neon orange and yellow, like blindingness, and then there was some blacks, and then this one came in and it was like little black, like pop futuristic, and it kind of just like it helped get that. I was like, okay, I'm starting to make a show. Like there's, so it was a punctuation for me.
Yeah, it did feel like a kind of anchor point or like a push pin in the wall sort of in the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is nice to have something for me, like something in a group of paintings, something that's really like of the moment. I think just to kind of, or just commercial, to kind of, I don't know why, just to bring that energy in. I think it's because we're used to seeing stuff like that. Like when you walk into any building, you're going to see like a Pepsi sign. It's just going to happen, or MasterCard, or it's just like those things are in the room. Like, it's very intentional if you don't see something of a brand and I feel like it just kind of normalizes a situation in a way, or a group. But actually just seeing it now, I feel like this painting seems similar to the reclining Buddha, and it seems similar to the 100 billion screen. Like there's this, I'm looking at you and you are looking at me. I mean, the reclining Buddha is not looking at you, but that body is aware and awake. That body, that's actually the Buddha on his deathbed. So it is confirming that he is a human being that became enlightened. So he's on that threshold. So yeah, I think this painting, it's the contemporary version of maybe what the other ones are kind of trying to do, or what I think of. Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm going to think about that some more because I hadn't thought about it in that way, but I love that. And do you have anything else you want to add before we see what people want to know?
Let's see. Okay.
Should we answer questions now?
Sure. Can you?
How's everybody doing out there?
I do have some questions here, and I'm sure some more will roll in as well. Marie wanted to know why you chose that specific color for the niche for reclining Buddha.
I think that I was thinking more of like an orange, because that was how I had seen it at this monastery in Woodstock, New York, that I was at. I had a few samples, but I think I picked the blue because I really wanted it to be more space, just kind of airy and open. And what else was I thinking? Probably about Tiffany's. No.
Another commercial.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, but I think really, yeah, that kind of just spaciousness, a kind of. But it's kind of a Christian color, isn't it? It makes me think of like Mother Mary or something.
Yeah, it feels Catholic. Anyway. Is that, I want to jump on that question and ask one myself too, but is that
Sure.
the first time that you've designed a niche or something of that nature?
This is the first time I've designed a niche, yes. I do always kind of like to do something different. Or it comes up and I think, what could I do that's something different? I mean, the mirror frame was different, but yeah, I mean, I think that, so that seemed exciting to me, and it seemed, yeah, like, this could work here. So stumbled through that answer, but.
I have a question from Anonymous. That what is it about working from photographs and digital images that intrigues or inspires you?
From working from photographs or digital images? Well, I do want to say, I think that I do use, I mean, the internet is something that we all use constantly for everything all day long. And so that's why I think a lot of that's in my work, because it's just, I live in this time, so it looks like this. But I don't get everything from the internet, actually. I think people say that a lot. I mean, I think the scroll of like seeing a million things is, how we live, but a lot of it's from books and my own experiences. But, when you do something, you kind of go home and look it up, and then you get a better picture from that or things like that. But I'm actually not endlessly scrolling the internet like I'm not on Pinterest, or I don't know. You know what I mean? But I don't know if the question, I mean, did they mean versus sitting in a field and painting plein air, or because I've tried that. But I mean, Johanna and I, we were talking, oh no, I was talking to someone else about it, about how I kind of put things really tightly into the canvas.
Mm-hmm.
Someone was asking me about that, and I do think that I smush things into the edges because I'm really interested in borders and edges, and also I like to feel like, I think it gives a feeling. But I don't even think I do it intentionally so much. It's just like that you think of the thing, you zero in on that thing, and it's kind of, it seems like it's going to, maybe the way your heart feels, it's going to go like out of it or something like that. So you feel that tightness so that Yeah.
Yeah. This is a very compressed feeling. The roses, the rose garden.
And then again with that expansive mirrored frame too.
Yeah. The roses is your maybe how you feel inside, and the mirror is the outside.
Yeah. Again,
I mean, these mirrors are, what's cool is that they aren't blank when you see them. Yeah, it was nice. The install picture is nice because the painting across from it is in it, and the photographer.
Yeah, it's so funny. I take pictures of reflective artwork so often. Like, this is an extreme example because it's actually a mirror, but even, anything framed in glass or, made with a reflective metal. I have so many pictures of myself standing with my phone, and that's my record of the artwork. I mean, it's kind of like both aggravating and cool that I can't get away from myself. And I definitely had that experience with the mirrored frames. And sometimes I'd like try to get it an angle so I'm not in it. And then you're just like, no, that's the point.
Yeah,
You're in it.
Totally.
Okay, I have a question from Daniela. Are there other cultures and or faiths dealing with enlightenment that you draw from or are hoping to focus on in the future?
Yes. What did I read this summer? Oh man. Sweetgrass, Braiding Sweetgrass is the best book. Highly recommend it. It's very much about these kinds of things in from a Native American perspective, and it's a beautiful, beautiful book. So yeah, I absolutely want to paint about everything that as we go along. But yeah, Tibetan Buddhism is my practice. I mean, this group of work is very something Johanna talked about really well when she wrote about my work. But yeah, you can make a Buddhist painting without the Buddhist imagery. But I think that this group of work was kind of I was, I just like, this is what I'm excited about right now, and I don't hold that back. So, yeah. Could we go to the next slide?
This question slightly jumps off of that one, but Esther asks, what are your thoughts on the relationship of society, enlightenment, and your role as an artist, or enlightenment and the internet? Do you see them as connected?
Yes. But that's a very hard question to answer. Sometimes I have to remember that, I mean, I don't speak a lot, so tonight's a big deal for me. But I love communicating and talking, and there's so many things to discuss. But I really do feel that every kind of year I feel, the more work and the more I learn from just how my painting practice goes, the more I feel like I know more of what I would like to speak about. And I feel like I'd really love to teach like in the future. But I think that actually I want to teach about art, but I also want to teach about Dharma. Like I really feel so interested in it and drawn to it. And I've thought about sometimes, like that the paintings that I make are actually, this is how I'm learning the Dharma. because I can read something and I can learn something from a teacher and, practice meditation and, gain better understanding of these really pithy concepts in Buddhism. But I can bring it right to the studio and I can just kind of work it. It just kind of what you're thinking about when you're working really does go into your work. It kind of seems like maybe in the beginning that's going to happen. And then you're like, oh no, that's not going to, it's just a big mess. I don't know what I'm doing. And then, at the end you're like, wow, this is kind of is what I was thinking about. So I do feel that the paintings that I've made, I will maybe be able to read them when I'm older better and kind of be able to talk about Buddhism maybe through them in a different way than as of right now. But I think that, there is a term, it's called Dharma art, which I really love because the translation of Dharma art is true art. So I think that's really cute, like true art. I feel like saying true art is cool because it's not pompous or anything like that. It's just that, if you, Allison, said, I think this is true art, that's your opinion and you can give it that kind of crown, I'm kind of going on, but yes.
I like that question.
Okay, I think we only have probably time for one more. There's a couple that relate to art history, and how your painting style relates to art history. But one of the questions in particular I thought was interesting, do you keep returning to any artist monographs in particular? Or probably any artist, any artist body of work as well, I would say.
Maybe as we were talking about the other day, like Jacob Lawrence, my favorite painter. So I just always like to look at his work. I like that he makes incredibly complex, beautiful, vivid paintings, but also, tells stories and, he's able to bring information with them too. And so I get really inspired about that when maybe that connects to the question before that, art there's room for it to be a lot of things at one time. And so you can really speak with it and do it your own way.
Leidy, you kind of, when we were on the phone, you were talking about like, sort of an epiphany with seeing Jacob Lawrence's work in school.
Yeah.
Will you tell people about that?
I just felt like a huge sense of relief. Because then, you just see it and it's like, it's completely, freedom. Like he decided how he was going to make figures and tell stories and do compositions. And it's really complex, but it's also like, it's really easygoing. It's not this kind of perfection of the light and the, everything like that, which I really appreciate that stuff too. But I just think that, I think my grandmother and my mom, who's here somewhere, they love Americana kind of paintings that, where you just are telling a story and you're using colors and, you're not worried too much about the academic stuff. So I think probably when I saw his work, I was like, oh, I know this kind of joy of painting. And I thought, but I just thought, oh, okay, you can do whatever you want, So.
Okay, I know I said only one more question, but I have one more, and then I think we're out of time. But Natasia asked, have you experienced a change of perception or understanding or your own enlightenment when painting?
That I don't know. I think it's the sharpest kind of moments for me are when I kind of walk out of the room and I walk back in. Because when you do something, you don't see anything. And then all of a sudden you kind of like look back and you realize there's things that are happening and you didn't see them before. So I think that there's a kind of a delay. And then, yeah, there's like that sense of surprise is really wild.
Kind of reminds me of that Philip Guston quote too. I don't even want to try to re-say it, but basically the best, when the artist has left the studio but is working on the painting, that's when the best work is made, when the artist and the critics and the audience have all left the room. It kind of reminds me of that. Well, thank you both so much for being here. We really appreciate it. And thank you all for coming this evening. I hope those of you that are in Dallas-Fort Worth can come and see Leidy's show at the Modern, which is on view through March 21st. So thank you so much again, everyone. And I hope everyone has a great evening. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.